Good morning. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi,
Unmute.
how are you?
Good morning.
I have unmuted. What time is it there?
Hello.
Hi. What time
Can
is
you
it?
hear
What
me?
time is it in the US? Yes, I can.
Hey, good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. How are you doing? Hello.
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm very well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Very good.
You're just
What
hiding your
time is it
face.
there?
It's 9:35.
Ah, indeed, it is morning.
Yeah, it's good morning. How was your day like today?
The same as usual, busy.
Okay. So today I wanted us to
Yes.
divide this thing into two short parts, huh?
Okay.
For easier uploading, because I did upload the first one. There's an introductory part I'll show you before we finish. But I think it's easier for the how many for the if it's in short parts, huh?
Yes.
Yes. So without much ado, your face is a little bit hiding, but you are shy, yeah?
This is what happens when you engage somebody who works in radio. They're accustomed to being heard and not seen.
No, but I've always seen your face. I've always seen your face in the other one, you know? It brings more interaction. Yes, that's the
Right.
city I know. Yeah, that's the city I know, you know?
Okay.
All right. You're okay. So,
So, want to divide this conversation into two parts.
yes, in terms of
Okay.
the length. Yeah, so because I think if you can do like, because it's 60 minutes, so probably 35, 35 or 40, 40, you know? I'm losing you. Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, you hung there, but I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we are continuing with the main theme that we had last week, right? Which is for
Right.
the but this today I think I was suggesting that we synchronize it based on the current party functionality. So we say how are the parties contributing to the positive electioneering process, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Then I think we can do some little diagnostic on the first session on that. Then we can finalize the last bit on what roles do they need to play, you know, which they're not playing, you know?
Mm.
So what they ought to play, then what they need to do, you know, to fast track the process. Because they are
Yes.
contributors to the flow. So without much ado, I wanted to introduce the program because this is now gonna go live, you know, gonna go public, you know. So over to you. You can introduce the program, then culminate with your sweet adages. Maybe one also, you know. Yeah, you're a man of
Ah,
adages. You don't have to overthink it, though. You don't have to overthink it. You can just, something light, you know, just like, you don't have to overthink it, you know. Mm.
I don't
But
have to think it.
yes, but And you can synchronize it with the common, local, adages. We have a lot of them. We have a plethora of them in Lowland, for example, Mm.
Okay, let me mention a Cape Verdean proverbs. I found this very, very well. I found it hilarious. Huh?
Okay.
The Cape Verdeans say this, that the teeth are happy at the mention of food.
Okay.
It's a simple enough phrase. It's a simple enough saying. Why I found it hilarious is this.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's the simplicity with which they put across a very powerful message.
Okay.
Whenever somebody affords you an opportunity to do something you enjoy doing and you do with ease, it's like you are telling you to do it. You actually find that you excel at doing it, and it provides you with a lot of joy and satisfaction.
Good. I think I also had the same. I also had the same analogy because if you look at the eating process, what confirms the taste of food is not only the tongue. How we break it into smaller bits. Is what entails the process of preparation before swallowing. So I'm imagining if you're just eating some of these things that you have to swallow, you might not enjoy the taste that much. So I think the teeth, I think, act as a very important element of contributing to the appreciation of the sweetness of the food.
They are. They're not just a welcoming committee.
Yes.
They are the ones who actually ensure that the meal is enjoyed.
Wonderful. So after the sweet saying, now City is going to introduce the program and give you a short, brief introduction within the context of the audience.
Yes. One of the things that we've been looking at in the last 2 weeks, we've been trying to get into the background, the history of it, trying to understand the significance, mention a few individuals who've been key players in it. Is not just the electoral system, but the people within it. Because the electoral system in the country of Kenya works because one, there are citizens who participate in it, there are citizens who understand that in a democracy, there are certain rights that, inalienable rights that a citizen has. And one of them is to determine who your representative will be in parliament. Now, that process, in many, many ways, has come under not just scrutiny, but criticism over the years, right from the time of independence. Because a dominant theme has been how individuals within the system with their political parties will do everything within their means to ensure that they win an election. And of course, when that happens, one has to ask, what is it at the end of this winning that people find that is so important that they're willing to do each and everything, even go as far as breaking the law to ensure that they actually win? Now, to discuss this, you look at individuals, you look at political parties, you look at political philosophies that are stated, you look at the reality of those political statements that are stated, you look at the reality of the philosophy, you look at the practice of it, and you look at the outcome, but you mirror and judge it against the lives of the citizens of the country, and you ask the fundamental question: are the majority of the citizens of the country of Kenya, are they in a position where with every electoral cycle their lives improve for the better? It's a question that when you ask, you then can mirror with a great ease the effectiveness of whatever rhetoric political leaders and those who are members of their party say, and what it is they do, and how it is that the reality of it is brought to bear in the lives of the citizens. This is what we have been trying to do, and this is what we're going to continue trying to do today, to look at some of the details, look at the thinking, look at the happening, but more so, we are also going to consider the impending 2027 election, which is next year, the preparations for it, and what it is that we're already beginning to hear as rhetoric. Is it something we've heard in the past? Is it something new? What is it that, again, that the citizens of the country can look forward to expecting vis-a-vis the things that would actually change their lives for the better?
Wonderful. This is going to be a very important engagement with the public in the coming years. And actually, we wanted to focus on engaging the public in terms of the public discourse. So keep your programs and keep yourself open so that when we reach out, when we go live, then we'll reach out to the bigger population for interaction. Because without you, we cannot actualize all these things that we're discussing. And without much
Yes.
ado, Mr. City, do you think the country political functionality can exist without parties? Are parties, relevant? I mean, in the 21st century, do you think parties are going to be relevant, or the common citizenry will have a social contract directly with their governments in terms of the voting mechanism?
Parties are necessary. And the reason why they are necessary is because the approach and then the understanding of nationhood, and should we say the practice of it, is as diverse as there are people. People have come up with ways of trying to bring about the same betterment on the lives of the people through their political philosophies. And the political philosophies have gone to influence the economic philosophies that a country has. And why it is important in a democracy especially is because that diversity is alive and well. It isn't one party, it isn't two, it is many. But the thing about Kenya and the uniqueness of our situation is when you listen to what the political parties say and what they say represents their philosophy, there isn't much of a difference between the parties. It's only in the last election in the year 2022 that the gentleman who's the current president introduced something that the country has never had. He actually brought in a discussion based on issues. Now, you may not have agreed with the issues that he anchored this conversation on, Hasler versus Dynasty, but there were issues nonetheless. And he has continued to talk about issues. Now, that opens the door for a very different conversation that politicians tend to have that centers around them and centers around vilifying the other contenders and going out of their way and spending much time explaining why it is those other people should not be in the positions they're in, as opposed to spending the time explaining how they want to change the lives of the people. Political parties are necessary. The expression of views that people think would change the lives of the fellow citizens are best given a platform where people have the freedom to determine how they want to go about it. So democracy at work, accommodating the diversity, is necessary. And in politics, political parties and then the variety of it represents this thought process. So to answer your question directly, yes, they're very necessary.
Now, in terms of operationalization, we are looking
Yes.
at the party ideologies and the anchorage, but I'm just wondering, during the registration process of the political parties,
Yeah.
are
Yes.
they anchored on any diversity in terms of the philosophy, or they're just registered as institutions that are meant for electioneering process? Because part of the concern is that we are looking at the level of mushrooming of parties, and if you look at
Yeah.
their doctrinal orientation, they tend to be associated by individual personalities, as part of their existence, as opposed to party ideology, as opposed to the party, philosophical construct, for lack of a better word. So I'm just
Okay.
wondering, because if you look at the historical dimension of all the parties that have have participated in the over electioneering process, some die as soon as the people whom they're associated with, exit the political, activities, or active life. Look at the PC party of Nyachai, which as soon as Nyachai died, it went. Look at Kanu. As soon as Moi was out of the exit, it meant an empty shell. Look at the order, the TNA, So all these parties have existed within as avenues for electioneering practices. But I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
is there a possibility where parties can be transformed into very viable clubs? Just like global, sporting institutions, which we have clubs, which have functionalities, which have income, which can function in a manner that they are more resourceful, not only to the membership, but they can also have members who are, who identify, who can be identified with them. It's not even the membership of, of the parties. I mean, the membership is not committed to the parties as it were, because people can leave parties based on what they, anytime they want, they can vote other parties. So I'm just wondering, within the framework of what is existing, do you think there's need for some transformational process in terms of functionality of parties to make them more viable?
You know, there is a registrar of political parties in Kenya,
Yeah.
whose job it is to register political parties. And there's a whole list of things that you need to do. The one which stands out is you must have at least 20 offices within the nation. We have 47 counties. So is it 20 or 27? No, it's 27. Meaning you must have offices in all 27 counties. Meaning you have to have offices in more than half the counties in the country. And then goes on the list of the things you must also achieve before you can be registered. So the requirements are clear and very straightforward. And it takes a bit of time and vetting to ascertain that you've met these requirements. However, the uniqueness of our political system is that our political parties tend to have a very strong tribal leaning. The leadership has a strong tribal leaning. The membership will have a strong tribal leaning. But if you go back into history, KANU and KADU did not have any strong tribal leaning in the traditional sense, where one particular tribe has a bigger membership or has a bigger say than other people. No. KANU represented the two major tribes of the time. These were the Kikuyus and the Luos, and other people who joined them. KADU was more of a representation of the smaller communities in the country. But over time, if you look at parties that have endured, when Jomo Kenyatta died, Moi took over. Now, KANU had a structure that traversed the entire nation. So they were, in many ways, a national party, no matter how you look at it. Then other parties came in and they fitted the description of what you've just said. They were vehicles for an electoral season, and then they ceased to exist. Or they were set up by somebody who had an ambition of being a president, and as soon as that ambition either bore fruit or came to naught, the party also dwindled. After this particular era of the Fords and what have you, we had ODM, the Orange Democratic Party. The last 20 years, the Orange Democratic Party has actually dominated the politics of Kenya for a great deal of time. And the reason is because they have represented the opposition, because every time the flag bearer has lost an election, something very unique and unheard of happened. With every electoral loss, Raila Odinga seemed to get more popular and seemed to gain more traction and seemed to have more followers. But since we're talking political parties, it was considered and was a strong national party. Raila Odinga died, and the statement you made earlier on stares at us in the face. Is the political party that he founded going to go the ways of other political parties that were led by strong leaders? That is what we will wait and see. If you look at parties like Wiper, if you look at, just name any political party, you will find that the membership tends to come not from a large cross-section of the party, predominantly one ethnic group, and then other people from other parts of the country may join. But that is how our political parties have presented themselves over time. But part of the reason, if you ask me, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
I was saying that part of the problem with our political parties is that they don't stand for any political ideology that you hear them talk about beyond the manifesto which they need to write when they're registering or when they're seeking election. You never hear them following a certain thinking, a certain way of looking at life, a certain way of conducting their politics. They all say the same thing, to be honest. And that is what is disappointing.
Okay. Now, you've talked of very important elements that are very critical. One, I think there's need for the ethnicization of the political parties to ensure that they are representative of they have the face of the whole country. But apart from that, Don't you think that because like in the other sector of operation, sometimes when they do the review and evaluation of the performance of the parties, or of the projects, they look at the accomplishments, outcomes against the proposal that was made initially. Okay? And based on those two elements, they can gauge the performance of a program, for example. All right? I'm just thinking loud that within the confines of the party, practices, don't you think if
Yes,
the registrar of political parties can come with a framework where the lifeline of a party does not start and end with registration? Because I know there are parties who are in perpetual existence until they are revamped when somebody pumps some money in them to take them as a vehicle for electioneering process. So you might find there are a lot of parties that just are existing as briefcases and they're still functional. I mean, their domicile are in existence, but I'm just imagining if the way the electoral commission is expected to clean their books, clean their register. Don't you think if there could
yes,
be a law that is introduced where within the cycle of the political life, especially within the 5-year cycle electioneering process, the registrar, or there would be a
yes,
law where all the party the party registration of, I mean, the registrar of parties can do an audit of the parties who are registered against the parties who participated, and the one that did not meet the basic criteria in terms of participation, in terms of actualizing some of the things that promised, can be deregistered, so that we begin to have very lean, functional parties, just like businesses are registered, right? And they have to renew their registration on a continuous basis based on their performance, file their returns,
yes.
and activities are also audited to see whether they're relevant in terms of action. Don't you think that could also form part of the long-lasting solution as a sustainable process?
It would actually, but I'm not sure that that doesn't already exist. You see, the thing that is also unique about our country is what is on paper and what is documented and what the practice is sometimes is at variance. You'll find that you may actually think that that requirement doesn't exist, and yet it does. It's just that we are focused on our practice, and our practice has a tendency of going against the dictates of the law or the requirements that are laid out. People more or less just go and figure out what it is they want to do and how they want to do it, and damn the law or damn the requirements. So practice is what we consider to be the norm, and the law may be something quite different. If someone doesn't challenge it, then of course a problem arises. Because if indeed what you're saying was the law and the practice, then by now we should have heard of some political parties being registered. Maybe they have, but I haven't heard it, and it isn't the public domain. But the point you
Wonderful.
make is a valid one.
So, what is the role of the citizenry? What is the role of the common man here? People talk of, the man in the Pangani bus. They usually say that. What is their role in all this matrix? Because, Mr. City, for sure, you can see it has been a continuous, perpetual practice within the political, realm where, the handout syndrome has dominated the political parties, especially during the electioneering process, where people believe there must be handouts, there must be some, there's no accountability in terms of the funding and also execution, of the funding practices within the political parties. Don't you think
Yes.
political parties have become avenues and conduit for money laundering, for example, especially when there's no accountability?
The money laundering is strong. I don't think it features the what we do. What you're describing is called voter bribery.
Okay.
Um, we have to begin with, the role of the citizen is clearly stated in our constitution, because the constitution gives the citizens the power. We are called the sovereign, meaning everything in this begins and ends with you. It is you who's the determinant of what happens. But it's something we have not internalized as a people. We talk about it, we hear others talking about it, but internalizing it and making it part of our practice, we are very, very far away from it. That's one. Number two, Chapter 6 of our constitution is the morality chapter that was supposed to deal with public conduct, behavior, acceptable moral and ethical standards, and so forth. But the parliament that came in 2013 had a go at that particular chapter and diluted it to the point where it is no longer effective. Yes, the writers of the Constitution catered specifically for that, so that they catered for a ceiling of the amount of money you could spend in an election. They sought to ensure that people who had pending cases within the courts, people who had a reputation of having had some altercation with the law, and a list of other things, were not eligible to hold public office. That thing is ignored completely. And you find we've had the bizarre case of people who have been pronounced guilty by a court of law serving in parliament, and yet they have an appeal. I asked the Chief Justice of the country this question: at what point is one pronounced innocent? And he told me, once pronounced guilty, you are guilty. Okay. You are guilty, and you remain guilty until there's a pronouncement to the contrary. So the disregard to the law that brings about the rule of impunity is what characterizes the way people in authority relate to the law. It's like the law is for other people other than themselves.
Now, countrymen who are watching, one of the things that we wanted to echo as we go through this segment, because we're almost going for a break for this segment, we are trying to give a diagnostic on how parties function and the role of common citizenry in the whole process. And it is evident in the process that all of us are key players in the process. And it's important, yes, as a voter to look at yourself as the key player in the whole matrix. Lest we'll, yes, be having a cycle of leadership that is not voted for the people, by the people, and for the people, right? Now, yes, to finalize this segment, Mr. CT, before we go to the final, the second session of the segment is the final one. So, yes, where are we in terms of, where do you see the party's level of preparation, the level of preparedness in terms of the coming electioneering, process of the 2027? Are the parties prepared, and are the players prepared? Because it's about the players and the referee. Many times we talk about the referee, but we don't talk about the players, right? So in terms of the players, do you think there's some level of confidence that you can give to the players, the parties as players in the coming election in terms of preparedness?
My opinion is this: those who call themselves the opposition do not seem prepared, in my opinion. Yeah. Because I do not hear them saying things that one could consider encouraging in terms of understanding them as people who want to provide an alternate government. If you're going to provide an alternate government, surely you must tell us what it is you're going to do.
Yes.
But those who call themselves the united opposition spend most of their time telling us what the government is doing wrong. It is their role to hold the government to account. It is their role to point out what the government is doing wrong. But that can't be the only thing they do. They must at some point tell us what they plan to do. Because after we've heard what the government has not done, we will then ask, so what is this thing that you plan to do which is different? And in many cases, that question is not answered. So in terms of preparedness, I would argue that those in the opposition are far from being prepared. The government, on the other hand, seems to have rolled up its sleeves quite well, and everything about the government points to them working very hard to be ready for the next election. That is the simple truth as I see it.
Wonderful. And on that basis, probably next week we'll do some legwork to try to bring, yes, one of the leaders on board, just to interrogate them on how the level of preparedness in terms of the electioneering process. We might start with the opposition, then we might bring the government, because our brothers, our citizenship and brothers need to interrogate some of these leaders to understand that they are part and parcel of the change process. So we might, yes, scout for some of these fellas and bring them on board to interrogate them in terms of how prepared they are, especially these candidates who are championing the rights of the party and who are candidates for the parties.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I said that's an excellent idea. I was agreeing with you.
Yes. Yes, because we want to gauge them and find out what is their level of preparedness, you know, because we can talk about them, but we also want to hear from the horse mouth in terms of what makes them unique, you know, what makes them different, you know, or is just the normal talk of every 5 year, you know, and probably we might, you know, we want to reach out we might start with either the ones who is ready, so we'll reach both the opposition and the government, you know.
Okay.
So whoever is ready, who can seize the moment, we'll meet the person next week on Tuesday in our first session, just to interrogate them in the level of preparedness. So
Okay.
without much ado, City, do you think we take a commercial break? You know,
We take a commercial break and come back after a few minutes. Yes.
so 5 minutes, then we come back after 5
5
minutes.
adequate. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and see you in 5 minutes.